boys and girls, it's your high-flying, red-blooded American Spitfire babyface with a heart of gold, feet too fast to catch, a Kentucky Fly flying for him, then I knock it right next Tuesday, and a smile that'll break glass heart and bend little pieces, baby. I'm a man of pride, I'm Kentucky pride, and I'm rock and roll personified. Yep, 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 I'm Bobby Blaze, and I'm telling you to support the WFMU Marathon.
I'm out on furlough, your favorite criminal, the venereal delinquent, the asexual predator, 369 pounds of sexually transmitted destruction, the skull! Harley Tucker, you don't give this station money, I'm coming for you, bitch!
Support independent freeform radio with the WFMU Marathon and receive WFMU swag and prizes, including Darren's exclusive Marathon Premium. Find out more at WFMU.org. Be there! It's the Wrestling Club with Darren and Brett. Looking back at the crossover between professional wrestling and Saturday Night Live with Andy Kaufman, Hulk Hogan, Mr. T, The Rock, The Big Show, Triple H, Mick Foley, Will Forte, Kristen Wiig, John Cena, Michael Che, and Colin Jost, with special guest Jess and your hosts Darren Navy and Brett Davis.
Wow, I'm so excited to be here hosting Wrestling Club on WFMU. I'm Darren. I'm in Jersey City, broadcasting worldwide on the internet, on YouTube, and somewhere in time on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, at WFMU.org from the archive. But I'm not alone. I'm with my tag team partner for life from Hollywood, California via satellite, the EVAD to my Kevin, Mr. Brett Davis. Brett, here we are.
Yeah, the Hans to my Franz. Today we are talking about...
That's right.
We are talking about the times that the WWE and Saturday Night Live have crossed over. Just recently, Bad Bunny appeared with the 24/7 championship draped over his knee as he delivered a beautiful ballad. And, it made me think there's been a lot of crossover over the years. Right. Lord Michaels, Vince McMahon, similar people. But we'll get into that. First, I want to introduce our wonderful guest, a good friend of mine, and a future good friend of yours. Please welcome Jess Lane. Actor, writer, director.
Yeah, all those things.
All sorts of things. Welcome to the show. So we usually start off these, and this one, we're skipping the news. Maybe because we recorded this a week ago. But
what?
We usually like to start off and say, what is your first exposure to wrestling? But I'll also ask you what your first exposure to Saturday Night Live was.
Oh, okay, great. My first exposure to wrestling was when I was a child. I was a nerd and I wasn't into such things, but my aunt was only 4 years older than me. She was like a cousin, basically, with that kind of age diff. And her and her friends would watch WWF. This, that era we just saw, The Rock, Stone Cold, etc. in the heyday, I think 96, 97 would be when I was watching. And I hated it. I didn't enjoy it at the time. And not until I became an adult was I like, oh, wrestling rules.
What about it rules to you?
Oh, I was just like, oh, this is incredibly improvised theater featuring feats of strength and endurance. And so it really appealed to the theater nerd in me.
Mm-hmm. And Darren, we know your wrestling history, but what's any memories of Saturday Night Live?
I would say my earliest memories of Saturday Night Live were my sister would watch it. and I didn't understand it. I didn't like it. I wanted to watch wrestling, not Saturday Night Live. We would watch it. So at some point in the 90s, it was in syndication, so they'd have the 1 hour show, and it would be whatever. And, yeah, I didn't get it, didn't want to see it, and I wanted to see my wrestling. But then I got, maybe by the time I was 10, again, I never watched it live. I always thought it was bad live. I'm like, why do they have all these bad sketches? Where are the good ones? But I liked watching it for the musical guests. I remember being 11 and finding out that the Counting Crows were on Saturday Night Live. And I was like, I gotta see it. I got Mr. Jones. Here I come. But that would be my intro to SNL. Comedy Central reruns.
Mm-hmm. Me and Darren had opposite experiences with our family members forcing us to watch the other thing. Because I loved SNL as a kid.
I mean, I did like it as like, give me a couple. I think I didn't like it because I didn't like my sister and I wanted to watch wrestling and she hated wrestling. She said it was fake. I said absolutely not. So there was a little disagreement in the home, but for the most part, I liked both. By the time, I'm 10, 11 years old, I liked both things. I thought they were both great.
How about you, Jess?
I gotta say, we were an in living color household. Mm-hmm. That was our live sketch comedy show of choice for sure. But I couldn't even tell you the earliest memory I have watching SNL. I definitely watched it the second I was allowed to stay up late enough to watch it, and I definitely think that my mom showed me all of the early seasons from her childhood early on. She really liked showing me cool old stuff. But I grew up in the Will Ferrell, Sherry O'Terry, the cheerleader sketch era. So that was always what was funniest to my little baby brain.
Same. Yeah. I loved Will Ferrell. It made me laugh. Just I came up with wild stuff, but I might say my earliest really the memory for me watching it as like a 10-year-old fat kid was watching Chris Farley. Loved Tommy Boy, loved Black Sheep, thought David Spade was a little worm. I could really relate to Chris Farley. I thought of myself as an athlete. I was on the Pee Wee football team. So. Yeah, I saw a little. It was nice to see. I was like, you're a fat kid in middle school. If you're not funny, you're gonna fall off real quick. So Chris Farley was definitely an inspiration for me too. I'll fall off my chair and people laugh at me. They'll laugh with me. That's how I felt as I'm sitting on the ground, hurt. But I guess that's kind of become a metaphor for my future after with Brett. My life with Brett.
So I am a big SNL nerd.
The biggest.
I got into it at a young age. I remember Wayne's World was important and it felt like a thing I should be into. Even if I didn't fully have access to it. I remember renting the movie and then being wait, this it's on TV? Right. It just it confused me, and I think I maybe even remember seeing the Madonna. It was when she was doing her sex video or whatever it was called, and they inserted Garth into it, and I just remember that just seemed like the most illicit thing you could ever see. So, and yeah, it was a thing that was my mom was kind of puritanical to some extent. So she was you can't watch that, which made me want to watch it more. It was late at night. I found there was something cool about staying up late. Yeah. But yeah, by the late 90s, I was just forcing my little body to stay up late and watch this show. And when The Rock hosted, it was oh my God, my worlds are colliding. Right. And that was just an important thing for me because it was wait, wrestling's not SNL cool. So we'll get into it. Today, again, we're talking about every time WWE and SNL kind of rubbed shoulders. I have an exhaustive
Every single
list.
time. Yeah, you sent me the list, and it is long.
I had to trim it down.
Oh, did you?
I was for a minute including like every time an SNL person was like in a movie with a wrestler. So like the Big Show and the Waterboy, Dennis Miller and like John Lovitz and Rob Schneider as like special guests on Raw. I will throw up the Rob Schneider clip on our Instagram, Wrestling Club WFMU, because it's truly horrific. Rob Schneider MCs the Diva Search contest, and it's about as horrible as you could get. But
yeah, that sounds real bad. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, I mean there are a lot of parallels between this Saturday Night Live and pro wrestling, especially WWE, because it is a one-man show. It all kind of comes up to one guy, and everybody's aware that this one guy is in control, and there's a churn of talent that comes in and out, and some become huge stars. So it's just like this golden touch thing. It's I think it's interesting parallels.
It's cyclical in the same way, you know, where like you'll have really big stars and it'll be a big deal, and then you'll have kind of rebuilding years, which, you know, WWE has been in for the past decade. But you know,
yeah. I mean, you know, everybody's
live performance. I mean, watching that cold open there, I was like, oh, these guys know what they're doing. They're gonna nail this. They were better than Lorne.
It's like, you know,
they're really good.
And also it's just like, yeah, it felt so natural to cut backstage to Vince McMahon talking to Big Show and Mick Foley and Triple H. Like, even though it's a totally different show.
Promo.
And like, talk about putting it all out there. Vince McMahon with that live from New York at Saturday night, like, he put his entire body, his whole frame into that. And like, it almost falls off it almost goes off the rails right at the end when he does his little, like, you got to watch the clip. When he does his little, like, I don't even know what you call it. His face starts moving. And it's like, yeah. It's like, all right, guys, let's cut out. Yeah. Let's cut away from this quickly because Vince isn't going to stop.
Yeah.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Thank you, Brett. That's true.
Well,
That's what it sounded like, sort of.
Let's turn back the clock to 1975. Darren, what was the WWF? Because, you know, this is a WWF-centric topic. So what was the WWF like in 1975?
Well, the WWF was a regional promotion in New York. And, you know, they had cities, you know, they ran shows in Boston, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, D.C. So, you know, the Northeast. Your champion was Bruno Sammartino, the Italian-American superstar from the 60s. You know, he's getting a little older. He had his wig that he wore. You know, he's balding. So, I mean, it's something that's a little more, it's not pop culture. It's something that's kind of sleazy. I've talked to fans from that era, or like maybe not casual fans from that era. And it's like, you know, it was on like a UHF station. It was kind of looked down upon, but that was, you know, 1970s wrestling was gritty. It was smoke-filled arenas, you know, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah. Well, NBC at the time, and network television in general, there were a lot of variety shows. The closest thing to it was Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, or like the Smothers Brothers, which were things that Lorne Michaels had worked on. He was on the cooler end of the spectrum of like variety TV, but Johnny Carson wanted to have something else in the late night time slot. He wanted to change things around, which led to NBC offering Lorne Michaels a shot at developing a TV show. So he went out looking for people, found the best talent, a lot of them that had been on the National Lampoon Radio Hour, which I was a part of. And we'll never be a part of again, probably, because it's gone.
Whoops. Oh, well, bye-bye. Bye.
Maybe
you'll be on SNL.
Maybe it'll come back. Maybe.
Yeah.
That's...
Yeah.
I mean, that's
We're
what happened.
optimistic on Wrestling Club.
So let's take a look at some fresh-faced, not ready for primetime players on Tom Snyder. And shout out to the man upstairs, Isaiah, who's helping us out with these clips.
This is Chevy Chase, Dan Aykroyd.
Hello, Dan.
Hi.
Hi, Dan.
Jane
Hi,
Curtin.
Jane.
It's Garrett Morris.
What's
Garrett.
happening?
Gilda Radner.
Gilda.
John Belushi. And
Lorraine Newman.
Lorraine Newman.
That's all right.
Will all of you be seen every week doing improv or repertoire, or how does it work?
Well, we've got 8, and we're hoping for 2 to really work. So not all of these people will become stars. I mean,
That's what I
that's a
said, that only
possibility.
2 of you will be
Probably
chosen to
just
appear
2 or
on the
3 will
program, so the rest of you are just spinning your wheels. Is that what I mean?
Essentially, yes.
Well, it all starts on the 11th of October, and I wish you all well and have a lot of fun, and the audience will too, and welcome to Rockefeller Center and doing live television from New York.
Thank you.
I think it's great.
I think it's great too. SNL had a slow start. First episode had George Carlin as host. He did a lot of stand-up. It also
sure
had a
did.
performance. Yeah. Has anybody seen this first episode?
Yes.
I have before, but I couldn't recall a single part of it now.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of George Carlin. There's some Albert Brooks short film. There's the Muppets, like the adult Muppets that everybody hated. And there's a performance by... Yeah. There's a performance by a young Andy Kaufman. Even the first sketch is kind of like, I don't even know if every cast member was on the first episode. First sketch it has Michael O'Donoghue in it, who wasn't a cast member, and Chevy Chase, who blew up that year. It seemed like the Chevy Chase show before it really felt like Saturday Night Live. And they actually did a first sketch in February of 1976, where the Bees, the characters that they performed, were wrestlers. It was an all-pro wrestling, was the title of the sketch. I tried to find it. I couldn't find it. But it's out there. That was the first time SNL ever interacted with wrestling. Dusty Rhodes.
Brett, I have a question. Were any of those early SNL cast members wrestling fans?
Well, Dusty Rhodes did say that he would go and hang out in New York City, and he would party with John Belushi at the Lone Star Cafe. It'd be him and Belushi and Bette Midler, and he'd be singing Johnny Be Good with Belushi on stage. But also, he said like the Four Horsemen would show up, and like they'd be like mad that he's partying with the celebrities. And the Four Horsemen didn't get started for another 10 years. So I think that Dusty may be either he's straight out lying, he's confused and maybe embellishing a little bit, or he would party it up with Jim Belushi.
No one told him. That's fine. Either any of them are believable stories.
Yeah, I mean, Belushi would have been around when Dusty Rhodes was like wrestling superstar Billy Graham at Madison Square Garden, so it is possible.
I'm saying, maybe I could see Aykroyd being into, Frank Tunney's promotion up in Toronto or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe like Yukon Eric.
I think he'd be an AWA guy, probably.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, maybe. Is he from? Where's he from? I thought he's from Canada, right? Right over the border.
I'm not sure. I don't know a ton about Dan Aykroyd.
Well, pardon me then.
You're probably right. However, in 1979, we had our first actual wrestling on SNL. It was became a huge success, huge pop culture crossover thing. All these people became huge stars, and a few of them continued to be huge stars throughout the 80s. But Andy Kaufman continued to do a lot of weird little sketches, and this is around when he started wrestling women. Darren, explain this wrestling women stuff.
Well, Andy Kaufman, real funny comedian, loved, and he is a big wrestling fan, and he had an idea, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong, but he just, he liked classy Freddie Blassie and, just the old wrestling heels, and he wanted to perform as a heel wrestler. So he started wrestling women, and I think in clubs as, part of his act, and Bob Zamuda said it was a sex thing, but I don't know. I don't know if Bob Zamuda is a reliable narrator. I don't know.
Yeah. Bob Zamuda is also like, yeah, he's still alive. He lives in New Mexico. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
Jess, what's your take on this era of Andy Kaufman, or Andy Kaufman in general?
Oh, I love it. I think him wanting to wrestle women is definitely in the spirit of being a heel, and at the time was very controversial, I guess. And I love that because, now fast forward to today and we're all begging for intergender matches or genderless matches. Right. And so, and we're getting them in, some of the other promotions that aren't WWE. And so, I mean, I'm a Kaufman fan, so I think it's one of the funniest things you can do. One of the funniest ways you can decide to play the heel.
Who is the greatest? Who's the greatest intergender wrestler? Is it Andy Kaufman, Joey Ryan, or James Ellsworth?
Jesus. I was going to say Minoru Suzuki.
Oh, yeah. Well, he never claimed... He never wore that shirt, James Ellsworth did actually carry around an world intergender wrestling champion, but... Yikes. But yeah, this did include some other famous performance artists that would be part of this thing, which was essentially just the old carnival wrestling thing. Nobody
exactly
can beat me.
Yeah.
I'm the toughest person in the world. It's just thrown in that he can't wrestle men, so he has to wrestle women.
And it's also it's the ERA era, and it's a very it's a controversial issue. It's a political issue, and I think there's something really it's something brilliant about presenting this controversial political issue through the lens of a wrestling heel. He's indefensible what he's saying, but it's just in the course of a gimmick. It's really very inspiring over the years to me, and I know it's the same for you, Brett.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, dare I grab the award, but I am
God. Jess, every week,
Andy Kaufman Award champion. And if anybody wants to try to fight me and take this from me, you're going to have to rip it out of my cold, dead hands. I'm telling you that.
Well, I guess I am a woman, so I would wrestle you for that.
That's true.
I've thought of it. It'd be a fun homage, and then I could get my jollies.
Oh no! I'm the Bob Zamuda in this. I'm definitely the Bob Zamuda in this scenario, which I'm okay with. I'll take it.
Bob Zamuda notably would dress up as Kaufman alter egos and then fuck people, saying he's Andy Kaufman.
Oh, I don't know if I'll go that far, but we'll see. I mean, when the pandemic's over, right?
Yeah,
hello, ladies.
Depends on how many women are throwing themselves at Brett right now. How worth it that pursuit would be.
Yeah. And we'll never know. But yeah, frequent Kaufman opponents included Laurie Anderson and Debbie Harry.
Weird.
So yeah, but the audience, especially people that didn't quite get the wrestling aspect of it, they hated him and they truly despised this. And we'll get into that in a bit.
Yeah.
In 1980, the cast had been around for, half of a decade. All were getting offers in Hollywood, wanted to move on and do different things. No Kenan Thompsons in this crew. So Lorne Michaels also decided to leave. There's a big cast exodus. There was one weird, awkward year in the middle. And then new ownership came over, and it didn't go so well. So NBC decided to put the show in the hands of Dick Ebersol, who was a sports guy,
legend.
had no entertainment experience.
None.
And we're going to find a lot of parallels that really link wrestling with SNL, starting with Dick Ebersol. So let's take a look at his experience.
But at the end of 5 years, he'd had a falling out with the then management at NBC, a management that I hadn't been very crazy about either. And the show began to erode in the ratings. And they tried to get Lorne to come back, and he wouldn't come back to work for that guy. And I certainly didn't want to work for that guy, but I agreed to a meeting. Had the meeting and sort of established that if I could keep the show on the air for a period of time, they would start buying shows from my production company. And out of that came things like Friday Night Videos, and later with Bob Costas. And I had this great partnership with Vince McMahon called Saturday Night's Main Event. And other than the Tonight Show, that was the dominant thing in late night. Saturday Night Live got healed thanks largely to Eddie Murphy, who was 18 and sort of an extra when I got there. It was not a hard thing to figure out that he was the most talented person there. And Bob Tischler, who was another producer I brought with me, we just wrote, had people. We had Barry Blaustein and David Sheffield, who went on to write most of Eddie's movies. They were there at the time. And Eddie single-handedly saved Saturday Night Live, if the truth be told, that one season. And then the next year, we added Billy Crystal and Marty Short and all those other people. And Saturday Night Live was fine.
Yeah. So
he's right. He's right. Saturday Night Live was fine.
It was fine.
It was fine.
Absolutely. You go back and watch those, and it's so weird because every other era of SNL is like so canonized, and like, you know, you've seen it in reruns, and they've made movies out of things, and that's like, you look at those eras and you're like, oh, Gilbert Gottfried was on SNL, like
right.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus at like 21 years old was on SNL.
Right. It's like the TNA 2003 pay-per-view era.
Yeah.
You just never know. It's just, you know, one week it's Chris Rock, next week it's the murder. What was the little person that they pulled out the gun on TNA? What was that guy's name? He just passed.
Yeah.
He's like, literally, I think his name was like the murder midget. I know that's not politically correct, but that's what he used.
Puppet, I think his name was? Puppet the Psycho Dwarf?
That's it. Puppet the Psycho Dwarf. R.I.P.
Wow.
Wow. So yeah, Dick Ebersol takes over. He's known, you know, unlike Lorne, who is, you know, Chateau Marmont kind of post-hippie Paul Simon friend. Dick Ebersol would walk around with a baseball bat, and he'd, you know, just kind of look at his team and coach, and, you know, try to let the funny guys do what they do best.
And he was legitimately one of Vince McMahon's best friends. Like, they were good friends.
However, one person he fucking hated was Andy Kaufman, especially because Andy Kaufman was doing this women's wrestling thing, and people genuinely hated him. And, you know, he was making enemies. He was causing problems on Taxi, where he's like, I'm going to be a fictional character for the week. Goodbye. You know, so I could see it. And also around this time, you know, he's like befriending Freddie Blassie, and he's going to the WWF shows. He's even trying to work out a deal with Vince McMahon Sr., who's like, no, I'm not going to have a celebrity as part of wrestling. So Andy Kaufman's causing a lot of problems, and it leads to him having his big match in Memphis, where he tries to do the women's wrestling thing, and Jerry the King Lawler steps up to him, and he got to explain the post-match injury he received on SNL while talking to Bill Murray's brother, Brian Doyle Murray. Let's take a look.
As you said, I was wrestling women, and I went down to Memphis, and I wrestled a lot of women down there. And in doing so, I made fun of Memphis and said a lot of things against Memphis and against a lot of the people down there. And so I was challenged by this man, Jerry Lawler.
Only the second
Also like to apologize to all the women that I've wrestled and all the women who I've said, who I've offended by saying those nasty things that I've been saying.
Dick Ebersol, the executive producer of Saturday Night Live, came on this show last week and said that Kaufman's material was no longer up to this show's standards. NBC has set up 2 special phone numbers so that you can call in and vote. Now, if you're like me and you want to see Andy Kaufman on Saturday Night Live, dial 1-900-720-4101. That's 1-900-720-4101. Now, if you never want to see Andy Kaufman on this show, dial 1-900-720-4202. That's 1-900-720-4202. Now, during the next hour, we're going to be counting these votes. And I want you to remember that this show is live. It's Saturday night, and we're doing this for real. The final tally. To keep Andy, ladies and gentlemen, 169,186 votes. To dump Andy, 195,544. Sorry, Andy, you'll never be on Saturday Night Live again.
So
The cheering.
I know.
Wow.
And, if you weren't able to see that, if you're listening on the podcast and not on the YouTube video, that was Gary Kroger standing next to a very, very, very young Drew Barrymore. She's like 6 years old or something, and they had her host the show.
E.T. Drew Barrymore. Also, I was going to say, watching that clip of Kaufman, if we were to redo a Kaufman biopic now, I would 100% cast Paul Dano.
Yeah, he would be a good Kaufman, and he wouldn't do all the weird Jim Carrey stuff.
Yeah, he would be untarnished.
So that's a little bit of trivia. The first pro wrestler to ever appear on Saturday Night Live was Jerry the King Lawler.
Wow.
That was his 18th and last appearance. At the end
Is
of
that
the
1980?
show,
Is that 1983? 1982? What year is
this
that?
is
Kaufman
January 1983. At the end of the show, as the credits rolled, Don Pardo said, "This is Don Pardo saying, I voted for Andy Kaufman."
Oh, that's so sweet.
That's nice.
But yeah,
Didn't matter.
supposedly Kaufman and Ebersol, either that week or some other week after that, had a huge blow-up screaming fight backstage, and they truly real heat. It's a shoot. So, yeah. But yeah, around this time, probably credit due a little bit to Andy Kaufman reminding people that wrestling exists. WWF starts to blow up. Darren, explain what happens in the shortest of words in 1984.
1984, Vince McMahon starts going national. He starts running outside of the Northeast with Hulk Hogan as his big top star, and pop culture happens, Cyndi Lauper happens, and MTV happens, and by the beginning of 1985, they have their first WrestleMania, and the modern era of professional wrestling has commenced.
Jess, have you seen this era of WWF? Any thoughts?
Not that much. I think I've seen a couple of maybe clips, maybe have watched casually at a party, but I'm not well versed in this era.
Oh,
Sounds like
I
a
want to go
fun
to those
party.
parties. It's a great party.
I have a lot of friends who like wrestling.
I mean, we talked about this on our 1984 year in review episode in depth, if you want to listen to that. But, again, it's like wrestling has never been as cool or as culturally relevant. Even with Bad Bunny, being a WWE champion on SNL, it's like there's still, even though Bad Bunny's the biggest musician in the world right now, it's like a lot of people don't know who he is. But in 1985, pretty much everybody knew who Cyndi Lauper was, and they were like, she is a lunatic for appearing on SNL, or I'm sorry, in WWE. She did appear on SNL that year, though. She sang "Girls Just Want to Have Fun" and danced with Steve Martin, who did her like kind of weird like '80s dance. It's a cute clip. However, Vince McMahon also started Tuesday Night Titans. Darren, explain what Tuesday Night Titans is, because you were literally conceived during it.
No, I was born.
Maybe conceived during it, but definitely.
I could have been, but no, I was actually born during primetime wrestling. But I digress. Tuesday Night Titans was Vince McMahon's vanity project. Vince McMahon wanted to be Johnny Carson. He wanted to be a comedian. You know, he wants to be an entertainer. We all see that. We've all seen that in the Attitude Era when Vince McMahon became a heel character. But
this is Vince McMahon Jr. His dad has died and passed the company along to him.
Yeah.
So this is
Vince McMahon,
the guy that
Vincent Kennedy McMahon.
Yeah, the guy that poo-pooed Hulk Hogan being in the Rocky movies because he thought it would tarnish the business. The guy that said no to Andy Kaufman. His son takes over, and he's just literally doing sketch comedy. You know, bad
people
sketch
thought
comedy.
right. And that's what Tuesday Night Titans is. It's wrestling sketch comedy. There's never been anything like it since, really. That's just so dedicated to being comedy or whatever. I can say whatever.
Glow.
It's not very funny.
Maybe Glow,
but Glow is still a wrestling show, where Tuesday Night Titans is a variety
What
show.
was the name of the prank show?
Just with wrestlers. Of the what?
Swerved? What was the prank show that they did?
Yes, Swerved. I forgot.
Come on,
about
guys.
Swerved.
I mean,
You're
Swerved.
right.
Forget about Swerved.
I don't count anything as on the WWE network, because then we'd have to really pay ear to the Edge and Christian show.
Given the most thorough overview of the history of SNL and the beginning of wrestling, and you don't want to expand to include the WWE network.
Wow.
We'll do our jackass WWE coverage later.
I will say, I'm just going to throw it out there. The only other show WWE has done similar to Tuesday Night Titans was the Bobby Heenan show, which ran for 6 episodes on the USA Network in 1990. That's it.
This is true. But this was on the USA Network around the time when USA had Night Flight, which was like cool music videos and experimental films and stuff. So, you know, not everything on USA Network was cool, but I think that same audience, like kind of a hip, young audience, bored on a Saturday night, pre-Duckman, pre-Up All Night, they'd go to watch a little early, David Bowie videos, and then, would see Tuesday Night Titans, this weird, campy, low-budget talk show hosted by this square freak and like sometimes Cyndi Lauper's on it. And, it was enough of a cultural thing that SNL actually parodied it. So this is the first WWF parody. This is so hard to find. Thank you to Howard Sheffman, our guest from 2 weeks ago. We talked about WrestleLicious, but he was like, hey, I've got this Tuesday Night Titans clip. You should have it. So let's take a look and note the laughs in it. So that was Alex Karras as Captain Lou with Billy Crystal, Rich Hall, and Pamela Stevenson. Not a good sketch.
Not a good Captain Lou. I will say this sketch feels like a long lost sketch from The Special without Brett Davis. Very much like, let's do, as I'll just rep the shirt right here for our people watching live. Very, a little esoteric maybe. It's content,
A
not
lot
great.
of physical
Terrible
climaxes.
People fighting into the audience. The audience respectfully, like, keeping their distance.
Yeah. Not respectfully, fearfully.
So, wrestling is in the conversation culturally, and it just so happens that in March, the night before the first WrestleMania, they're building up. Hulk Hogan is going to team with the A-Team's Mr. T to take on Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. And the host that week was supposed to be Steve Landsberg, from some show. I think I don't know. I want to say Hogan's Heroes, but that's not the right era. But yeah, he comes down sick, can't do the full week. He eventually does a little stand-up thing on that episode, but they say, hey, everybody's talking about this WrestleMania. Even though it's 12 hours away, let's get Hulk Hogan and Mr. T to host. And we'll even give equal time to Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff, who pop up in the episode. So let's take a look at wrestling, the moment wrestling really becomes mainstream, when Hogan and Mr. T host SNL.
Wow.
So
good job, Terry.
That was Billy Crystal as Fernando, one of the lesser problematic characters he plays, but still problematic. And what would you call what Mr. T was holding for the listeners? It was that like thing you bend.
It looked like, was that for like exercise? I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like a coiled thing.
The hand clamp, but just for your whole arm. It looked like a not like a Lego, but like a children's toy.
Yeah. Well, Billy Crystal said it looks like a dick. And Hulk Hogan and Mr. T laugh really hard.
I did. Mr. T didn't break as much as Hulk did. Hulk really just kind of fell apart there.
Well, Mr. T, I've seen this when he was on Conan too. When he breaks, he's like, and then he like is stone faced again. It like comes out and like bursts.
I mean, Mr. T nailed that used to be a parking meter joke. That's solid.
Yeah, and that was an improv too. Billy Crystal was like, I'm so funny, I'm just going to improv these sketches sometimes. Which, he was like a movie star, so I guess he could. But, also a weird era where there's just like movie stars on SNL.
Is Billy Crystal a movie star by then? Really?
Yeah. I mean, he was on Soap in 1975, and this is 1985.
Oh, so sorry. Oh, I didn't know he was on Soap.
Well, that was a big show, and then, he's in movies and stuff.
I've never heard of it. I've never heard of Soap. What's Soap?
Eddie Murphy was in like 48 Hours.
Well, Eddie Murphy, yeah, but Eddie Murphy was a big star. That's fine.
Yeah. Billy Crystal's doing The Princess Bride with Andre the Giant.
That's 80, that's like 89, 88. That's 88. It's later.
Well, whatever. He's in the mix.
You're right.
One thing this episode is notable for, maybe only the Pee Wee Herman episode has less costume changes, because Pee Wee Herman hosts in character. Most of the time they spend in spandex and Hulkamania shirts.
Uh-oh. Looks like we have a technical issue with Brett. Luckily, we're not live, so we'll just let him. This is what happens, Jess. Sometimes Brett just.
I do remember the last thing he said was Hulkamania shirts, though. So.
Yeah, we'll get him back. Let me text him. Oh my. In me. Get that immune system boosted. Brett, you're back. Your microphone's off, though. You got to turn the microphone on.
Hulkamania shirts.
Oh yeah, Hulkamania shirts. They do a We Are the World parody. They do a lot of hard sells for WrestleMania. Piper and Orndorff cut a promo. It's a real gem, and soon it will be available along with the entirety of the WWE on Peacock.
I don't know if it's going to be the whole entire WWE network, it looks like, but there'll be some WWE programming on Peacock, along with Hulk and Mr. T on SNL. I've never watched the whole episode. To be honest, I guess I just kind of overlooked that they hosted SNL. I thought they were just on SNL that weekend, like it was just a random appearance to promote WrestleMania, and I didn't know that they were in sketches or anything, so I'm going to have to go back and watch it.
Do they do any wrestling, or are they just being funny and charming the whole time? You know, like when stand-up comes
they
on,
don't do wrestling. I can't say they're being funny or charming.
Well,
they're being cartoonish and mean mugging a lot.
Good.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Hulk was still coming into his own at this point. He wasn't quite the Hulk Hogan of 1986, 1987. He's still maybe doing a little too. There's still Tampa Terry in the Hulk Hogan presentation in 1984.
Yeah, but, miles away from, well, this is 1985, miles away from, 83 Hogan.
Oh, yeah. Or, and especially when you look at, I love 1984 Hulk Hogan. I don't mean to disparage this man. He should never be disparaged, right? Right?
Well, this partnership between Vince McMahon and Dick Ebersol...
But we won't go there. That's fine.
No, what's wrong? He'll sue us. The end of WFMU. Anyway.
This partnership leads to NBC Sports doing a program about wrestling, which only sets up a new show, Saturday Night's Main Event. Let's take a look at a promo and tell me if you know what this show is by watching this promo. And I think you'll know who this is speaking.
My name is Cindy Lauper, and your name is going to be Mud if you miss Saturday night's main event. Because if you don't wrestle, you don't rock.
Yeah.
So they're combining rock and roll and wrestling.
Rock and wrestling.
They said it couldn't be done, but they did it. Very little
That's
rock
unbelievable.
I think by the time the first Saturday Night's Main Event airs, Cyndi Lauper's on it, but I think they've kind of turned the curve. Wrestling isn't, more people are watching it, but it's not the cool thing anymore. And, they're not in New York, so you don't get, Andy Warhol dropping in backstage like he would do and, Danny DeVito at ringside and stuff. So, but it is a fun, campy thing, and it airs on weeks that Saturday Night Live isn't live. So if you're just a regular SNL viewer, you'd tune in expecting to see, Martin Short and Christopher Guest, and instead you'd see Bobby the Brain Heenan and the British Bulldogs.
And Hercules!
Yeah. Who was weirdly featured on it. And also, Saturday Night's Main Event takes a little bit of the Tuesday Night Titan stuff and, does it up a little more higher budget sketch comedy.
Yeah. Well, you say higher budget. I wouldn't say it's higher budget sketch comedy. It is maybe a higher budget than Tuesday Night Titans, but it really is just wrestlers wearing cheap Halloween costumes and let's put our face in a cake. It's like they're not breaking the bank here.
Yeah, but they go to Tampa and they're at a water park.
Oh, you're right.
They do
Tampa.
Weddings.
But it had a field reporting budget.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So, the Ebersol touches there. Also, he mentioned that he was doing Friday Night Videos, which was a music video show that aired in place of Tonight Show reruns. And wrestlers would be on that all the time for years and years, including Bobby the Brain Heenan hanging out with Macaulay Culkin. And it's a lot of weird, interesting pop culture wrestling crossover that's kind of lost to time. And also worth noting that he mentioned Barry Blaustein was a writer, and he would go on to make the movie Beyond the Mat, which is the saddest movie. So nothing really happens for like 10 years. Maybe wrestling's mentioned here and there, steroid joke or something on Weekend Update, but we do get this sketch in 1997 with your favorite Chris Farley, a famous Chris Farley sketch where he is the Hurricane El Nino.
Oh my God, I love this sketch.
Well, Jess, how would you rate Jim Brewer's Ric Flair impression?
God. Let's go with a 4 out of 10.
Okay.
It just seems a bit generic.
I would argue it's just not an impression.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think he's ever seen him.
Man.
He's just kind of doing Jim Brewer. I don't really see any Ric Flair, which is funny because Will Ferrell's, Ric Flair-esque character on, what was that, on Entourage or whatever? Was it Entourage?
It was
Chris?
on Entourage.
I don't know what it was on. I don't know. What was it on? What did he do it on? You know what I mean, right?
He's bound and down.
He's bound. What's the difference?
HBO shows that start with E. Darren was really close.
Yeah. I just started imagining if Will Ferrell played Ric Flair on Entourage, and they kind of treated it seriously.
Stuff like that, honestly. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, I didn't know. I did not know that these were different shows. They kind of just all work together. But Will Ferrell's 1980s Ric Flair is great. Jim Brewer's weird Ric Flair, not very good.
Yeah. Let's take a look at another sort of mid-90s sketch with Will Ferrell. This one is a personal favorite, and it's kind of a one-note joke, but it gets me every time.
It's the Hogan Talk Show. It's the Hogan Talk Show. Never gonna get pinned. He's always a friend to the children. The children. The Hulkster always reaches for the stars. Hogan Talk Show.
Hulk Hogan is on vacation. I'm your guest host, Phil Tobin.
Yeah, that was really good.
And that theme song goes on for 3 times as long. I should mention, it's so fun. And then he interviews somebody that's survived horrible cult a cult escapee who's talking about his time, and he keeps having to interrupt and be like, "Oh, now it's time for the Hulkamania wrestling clip of the week." Sorry, this is just part of the show. Another trivia fact, he plays a clip of Sting versus Paul Orndorff, meaning that Paul Orndorff has been on Saturday Night Live twice.
Wow, that's good for Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah. So up to this point, very little wrestler, or very little SNL people in wrestling. I can't think of any prior to this. But the first appearance we have of SNL cast members on the WWF programming is in 1999 in July, promoting the movie Mystery Men. Ben Stiller and Janine Garofalo appear. First, they do a segment on GTV where Ben Stiller keeps talking about Deborah's puppies, and Janine thinks that he's talking about dog rescue place. It's very strange that Janine Garofalo was ever on WWE TV. And then he does an in-ring segment with Jeff Jarrett, and he gets bashed with a guitar. And Vince Russo had this to say about it. When we had Ben Stiller on WWE Raw, I couldn't find him to produce the pre-tapes we needed. Where was it? How about smoking wacky tobacco with Road Dogg and X-Pac behind the trailers? When we met Ben, he agreed to take a cut guitar from Jeff Jarrett in the head. So yeah,
wow.
This is
Greg. What a quote!
Biscuit video era Ben Stiller, so he was kind of doing whatever.
Yeah. Tough guy.
Ben Stiller, famously a wacky tobacco head.
Loves that wacky tobacco. Well, wrestling does have its renaissance, the Stone Cold Rock era, the Attitude Era, and The Rock is such a big crossover star in the making that he is invited to host SNL once again just before WrestleMania. The main event of WrestleMania that year, which involved the McMahons in every corner, was The Rock, Triple H, Big Show, and Mick Foley in a four-way match. And all four of these people appeared on SNL. So let's take a look at more of that.
Hi, I'm The Rock, and I'm hosting Saturday Night Live this week with musical guest AC/DC.
Did you say you were AC/DC? That's cool.
So yeah, lots of The Rock is showcased. All of them get to play in sketches. Big Show kind of steals the show a little bit because he's the cute, shy giant. Have you seen this episode?
Probably not since the early 2000s, if it reran on Comedy Central. But there's no way
I've never seen it
in this episode.
I recommend it. It's
SNL.
Did I lose it?
No, we just both shut up.
Oh, okay. every time
being
I'm
quiet, just having a moment. We'll just have a moment of silence.
Yeah.
A little reflection. All right, that's nice. I've never seen that episode. Actually, I guess I have seen bits of it. I remember The Rock and Triple H. Is that 98 or 99?
That is 2000, just before WrestleMania 2000.
That's why I didn't see it. I was too busy partying in my sophomore year of high school, smoking that wacky tobacco.
You and Ben Stiller hanging out.
Yeah. I was a big fan of his. And wasn't he in the Something About Mary? Is that him? Right?
Yeah.
Hilarious. That's him. He's in that, right? That's real funny.
I
thought
love
that was very
we need
funny.
to explain who Ben Stiller is.
Well,
Darren, who can tell you everything about Jumbo Tsuruta, is who's Ben Stiller?
Well, I mean, Ben Stiller wasn't in the 1972 Olympics, Brett. He wasn't trained by Terry and Dory Funk. But we'll get back. We'll talk about Jumbo Tsuruta every other week.
Yeah, another sketch comedy.
He's got great sketches. You gotta love his sketches. I think they're a little more surreal than.
Check out our Weird in Japan episode with Emily Pratt to see what we're talking about. It's Jumbo Tsuruta's sketch comedy guy. So The Rock goes on to host another 4 times, meaning that he is a member of the Elite Five-Timers Club with the likes of Steve Martin and Tom Hanks and Alec Baldwin and Candice Bergen and all sorts of people. I tried to pick one good sketch. This is a wrestling-related sketch that he was in with Bobby Moynihan, and it was actually written in part with Brian Gewirtz, who was The Rock's kind of go-to personal writer who joined the SNL writing staff, which is probably annoying if you're writing on SNL and The Rock's like, oh, I've got my personal writer. He used to write for WWF Raw. But it's a good sketch, so let's take a look. Yeah, this sketch is great, and it takes some amazingly dark turns. He talks about Bobby Moynihan's character, the trash yard mutt, that he's got a daughter he doesn't know, that is a woman he slept with had, and she doesn't want anything to do with him. And then he talks about all this stuff that he's psychological warfare that he's doing before these two wrestlers have a match. And then he says he's even catfishing him. And the picture he's using is of the daughter that he doesn't know that he's been jerking off to.
Jesus.
It's amazingly dark.
I love Rock's Surfer Sting hair.
Yeah. And I think I forget what his character's name is, but it's Be Quiet or something. But yeah, the Rock is on a ton. He does the Rock Obama, which was his like recurring character during the Obama years. And he's really good at it, dare I say.
Oh yeah, he's the Rock. He's good at everything.
Yeah, he was Coco Watch Out. I just looked up. So that was his name. And then, as we go into the 2010s, there is a lot of crossover because WWE gets more savvy. Like I said, we had like Dennis Miller and John Leviton, which we're not going to get into because it's depressing. But we get Mankind on 30 Rock. We get John Cena doing a cameo on SNL in 2013. In 2016, he hosts SNL. He's also on the Maya and Marty show where he plays Hulk Hogan. We get a lot of interaction with wrestlers on Jimmy Fallon. Triple H and Stephanie do like karaoke with the New Day, and the Undertaker comes out and beats people up.
Yeah, I remember that.
But maybe my favorite is this example. And do we have the clip of this, Isaiah? It's Will Forte and Kristen Wiig reprising their characters from the MacGruber sketches and movie, talking to Vladimir Kozlov, and Will Forte brings out R-Truth to teach Kozlov a lesson. However, R-Truth explodes and dies.
I gotta say,
I didn't know that was canon.
It's perfect, and I love it. That really is a wonderful crossover right there.
Yeah, it's truly great. I love MacGruber as the like patriotic babyface coming in. Ryan Phillippe was also on that episode. Weird that Kristen Wiig was on Raw. But yeah, and that's not the only SNL cast members that appear. There's a notable feud with Braun Strowman and Colin Jost.
God. A WrestleMania feud.
Yeah, he keeps like putting on like the wrong team's hats, and like he's like, oh, this is all fake anyways, and Braun Strowman like is about to kill him, which leads to Michael Che and Colin Jost appearing in the WrestleMania Andre the Giant Battle Royal, where they spend most of the match under the ring, hiding, and then get thrown over the top rope. We're not going to play a clip of it because it's boring. Not so good.
I was there live, and they had more heat than anyone. Everyone did not like Colin Jost and Michael Che. The wrestling fans were not happy about it.
I mean, I'll give credit to Colin Jost. Like, he knew what he was doing, like, just playing, like, the guy that's, like, too cool. Like, I don't know. Like, wrestling's fake, right? Like he would, put on a Yankees hat in Boston or whatever, like, that stuff. But, it was a fun little...
I mean, they were on Raw a lot leading up to it. It was kind of... Yeah, it wasn't great.
They were cutting promos from, like, the SNL stage.
Right.
It also led to the Street Profits doing their own Weekend Update, which the less we say about is the better. And, yeah, it brings us up to today where Bad Bunny is on SNL. I'm shocked that they didn't do a title change on SNL, or at least backstage on social media. I was sure we're going to get, like, R-Truth running in or something, but they didn't do it. And
they're saving it for the big show.
Yeah. So now that we have the future ahead of us, if you had to book your SNL WrestleMania storyline for this year, what would it be?
I mean, I would just love to see 80 out there. Like, 80 really would just kill it, right? I think she would commit. She wouldn't show up in her plain clothes like the Weekend Update dudes did. She'd show up all got up in a really great gear, right? She'd probably throw someone around a little bit. She in her own right. I think it would be great, and I wouldn't think she would be playing as a heel.
Yeah. I think she'd be like a perfect babyface.
Yeah.
Who doesn't like Katie Bryant?
Exactly.
Darren, what would be your SNL WrestleMania storyline?
Oh boy, this is tough. I gotta look at it and look at that roster. Who do I see? I see Drew McIntyre. He's not doing well on SNL. Let's be honest. Not the funniest guy. Who else do we have? Oh boy, this is tough. You're really putting me on the spot here. I don't know who's on SNL anymore. I have no idea. I don't watch every week.
Well, who's like the golden child of WWE right now? Who's Vince really pushing hard right now?
The Miz.
Really?
He's the champion.
So we get Lauren's baby, we get Pete Davidson up against Vince's baby, The Miz. So we get Pete versus Vince.
Okay, all right, that's about right.
Yeah.
Are there any stats?
Now that ends. Truly shocked it hasn't happened already.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Those SNL WWE crossovers. I don't know if it's SNL's fault or WWE's fault, but the classics are the classics. But the last 10 years, you skipped over those Raw guest host ones, and they're brutal.
Yeah. Those were all, people very past their prime, but
sure.
I'd love to see maybe a Kyle Mooney in there. I feel like he would.
Yeah.
I want Kyle Mooney to have like a 10-week storyline. He's in Tampa.
Who would you book? Who would you book Kyle with?
Walter.
Okay.
And Imperium. He has to stand up to them 1-on-4.
Kyle
so that is. I don't want Kyle. I love Kyle Mooney. I want him to hurt
Walter.
them.
Well, Walter though, he gets those big hands that he hits people with. Boom, boom.
I think I want Kyle Mooney to kind of pull a David Arquette and show this fortitude that nobody expected.
It'd be really fun for him to get thrown around, but he could probably sell really hard.
Yeah, that's true. I could say it's going to be all in the sell job. Maybe he can bring in, Naya, who they got, she can do her little My Whole song. That's probably funny, right? That'd be good on SNL. They might like that.
I skipped over all the times SNL's crossed over with TNA. It's just once.
What's that?
Chris Rock was promoting his movie Head of State, which involved a scene in a wrestling ring, and they shot it with TNA. And they part of the contract agreement was that Chris Rock would appear on TNA TV. And again, that's another clip we'll put up on Instagram at Wrestling Club WFMU. Chris Rock is... You've never seen a person want to be somewhere less than he wants to be in the TNA back zone. So, yeah, that's the one. Mad TV, a lot of wrestling. That's its own episode.
Brett, Hitman, sketch.
We got Rock, Austin, Bret Hart, Trish Stratus, everybody's been on Mad TV.
We need to talk about comedic timing. Bret the Hitman Hart. He's got that cadence. You've seen him. He's a star not only in the ring but a stage and screen. So that's who I'd book.
He has a 2-year feud with Will Sasso.
He does, yeah. Will Sasso did great in WCW. Also, I'm gonna. Was he in WCW? He wasn't he, for a minute?
He was in both WCW and WWE.
I know
the storyline
WWE.
Bret Hart filmed an angle on Mad TV where he actually beats up Will Sasso, and then he went off to WCW, and WCW's like, let's pick up on that loose thread, and they had a match that involved a run-in from one of the cast members, And then, he popped back up in WWE a few years later doing like Fat Stone Cold. So
Didn't he also appeared as, wasn't he promoting the Three Stooges? And that was like what they did in that episode, I remember.
Oh yeah, they do a Three like Curly has a match or something.
So dumb.
Wow.
Yeah. And that was Deborah Wilson who did the run-in. But yeah, that's a Mad TV conversation is another day. But this has been fun. I hope it's been fun for you guys.
I know this is a big deal for you, Brett. These are your two the two things that keep you slightly socially isolated.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, bring them together.
Yeah, I've been in the SNL writers room. Not as a writer, but just as an onlooker.
Yeah, I've hung out
I
there.
nearly cried. You have too?
Yeah, I've hung out there, watched the show from the writers' room a time or two.
It's so cool.
You guys are cool, huh?
It's really cool and really depressing because you're just in like an old, not updated conference room in an office building in Midtown Manhattan. But otherwise,
yeah,
really cool.
But like Lenny Kravitz is like walks in. It's very surreal. And I've yet to be backstage at WWE, but fingers crossed someday it'll happen. I think that'll be a full circle. Yeah. Going to the Thunderdome. Just be like, oh, I'm here for something else. But Jess, do you have any whatever, shut up. Do you have any plugs?
Yes, I think the one thing to plug right now, I mean, I have a website, Not Jess Lane, that has all my stuff on it, but I do this thing called Racer Trash right now, which is for lack of a better word, a radical editing collective. We remix feature films into surreal, Dadaist, quote-unquote, vaporwave pieces of art. We have a website, racertrash.com, and we stream on Twitch quite frequently, so I would check that out and see when our next stream is.
Yeah, I've tuned in. Some of them are really great and take very unique turns.
I would say they're all
people editing
in their
different
own way. They're really something else.
Yeah. And Darren, you got a WFMU show and a premium coming up for the marathon.
Look, the marathon starts in 48 hours this Saturday, March 6th. The marathon begins. We're going for 2 weeks. My first marathon show is this Saturday night, which also happens to be my birthday. So if you're thinking of getting me anything, don't. I have everything I need. Just send some money WFMU's way. $75 will get you my premium, which is a collection of 80s Japanese death rock, which you will not find anywhere. It's not on YouTube. It's not on the internet. It might have been on a blog 15 years ago that has been out of commission ever since. So $75 will get you my premium. Also, we got T-shirts. They got a cool corduroy hat if you want to be in your 30s and look good. Check it out, WFMU.org, WFMU Marathon. It's keeping the lights on. If you like Wrestling Club, if you like WFMU, if you like Freeform Radio, we're listener-supported 100%. No corporate underwriting. We're not affiliated with any colleges. We're not affiliated with any advertisers. It is 100% community-supported, listener-supported. So WFMU.org is the place. You'll see it right there. The widget's right there to donate. And, yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah. This weekend it's going to be big.
It's on our
I
page,
can't wait.
too. Like, if you like this show and you want to support this show, you have to donate to Darren because that encompasses this show as well.
Yes,
a donation to this show is a donation to Darren's. Just we can be clear about it.
Streamlined.
That's right. It all goes to me. All the money goes to me. But yeah, you definitely want to get the premium if you're a wrestling fan. I'm sure this will be on our Instagram this weekend, but the art was designed by Brett. It's a photo of Dump Matsumoto and Bull Nakano with Dump's doesn't have a swastika this time, so that's good. She does love her swastikas, doesn't she? I don't know why, but the art is great. She's a heel. That's right. She is a monster heel. That's what it is. But yeah, you definitely want to check out the comp. I've spent a lot of money buying Japanese flexi disc imports. So there's just a lot of stuff, a lot of really cool music that you wouldn't hear otherwise without WFMU. So WFMU.org is the place for your donations in. Brett, what about you? What do you got coming up?
You know, I will have some stuff coming up, but it's a little too early to say. So, you know, I'm just going to say, leave a review, rate this podcast, tell your friends, tweet about it, you know, do whatever. You know, we don't have the boosting of a big podcast network. We don't have Forever Dog or Nerdist behind us. We have WFMU.
Absolutely not.
And they don't give a They don't give a shit about us. We are
the lowest.
That's
not true. No,
true.
There are lower. We have lowers. Not many. Yeah.
All right. Well, Godspeed to them. But however, you know, if I can plug something, Andy Kaufman. We talked a lot about him. Check out I'm From Hollywood, which is a compendium of his Memphis heel turn stuff. It's all his promos about like, hey, you got soap there in Memphis, Tennessee, and then it leads to him wrestling Lawler, and everybody knows about that first match, but this feud continued for like years. It was like
2 years. Yeah, 2 years.
Jimmy Hart. There's some Colossus of Death. There was a babyface turn. And then like, yeah, it's and also my breakfast with Blassie, which was My Dinner with Andre, but with Classy Freddie Blassie in like a Los Angeles diner.
If you go on eBay, you can get both DVDs packaged together. I believe I own them somewhere. Yeah, it's pretty great.
Yeah,
it's a pretty good thing.
I don't think you need to go on eBay either. I'm sure they're. I think they're available digitally.
That's going
you'll
to
find
make you.
them.
That's to be determined.
You'll find, it's really great stuff. You know, we've been working on an Andy Kaufman special on this show, and it just hasn't happened. You know why? Jerry Lawler. I'll say that much. Jerry Lawler's prevented us from having the Andy Kaufman special that we've wanted to have. So, you know, he's bad.
I'd say he's more like a Burger King. Just saying.
Exactly.
Just saying. That's a Whopper
right.
for you.
Darren, Darren, on that high note.
All right. For Brett, I'm Darren. Thanks for joining us on Wrestling Club here on WFMU. We'll be back next week live next Thursday night with a whole new show. Until then.